I'm trying to think where to start for you. I've lived on roots, barks, and leaves. This is the Frezzor nutritional shake. And I lived on the greenlet mussels. All right, can I tell you a little story about me?
Yeah.
Sure. We'll start with a little story, okay?
Yeah.
That's what we'll start with. So I was born in and unlike some of you are maybe, it's not a strange story, but I'm a 5th generation New Zealander. And so 5 generations back, I came from Europe. I think UK, London somewhere, England somewhere. And my grandfather was a fisherman. He fished on the high seas. And my father was a fisherman. And he fished on the high seas. And I grew up in a little home. It was no bigger than this room. There were 7 of us, 5 brothers and sisters, my mother and father. And my father believed in the disciplinarian way of life. So if I didn't do as I was told, he would whack me somewhere. So, my father used to show his love by hitting me. It was one. They call it a child abuse now, but back then it was called discipline. It was wonderful. It kept me in line. When I was 5, I started fishing on the seas. It's all I knew. And by the time I'm 21, I'm catching 1,000 sharks a day. I was an animal when I was young. And I used to catch up to 1,000 sharks a day on the high seas off New Zealand. I loved it. It was an adventure. And this, by the way, I never missed a day of school. At 16, you can leave school legally. So 16, man, I was out of there. I hated school. I couldn't stand school. I wanted to live life. And I want to encourage you all to live life. Find out what your passion is, what your love is, and chase it with everything you got. And that's what you got to do. Life is short. Don't waste one day. I see so many people wasting their lives. Don't waste it. It's a gift from God. Every day is a gift. And just so you know, everyone's got problems. So no big deal if you got problems, because we've all got them. It's how you face them. It's how you think about it. It's how you approach life. It's how you approach the day. So,
translate a little.
You all okay? Okay, they're all okay. You okay? So I want to leave you thinking differently about your whole life in the next 30 minutes. This is my goal today, where you can pursue your dreams, and you got to figure out what you love to do. Life is incredible when you're doing what you love. And if you don't know what it is, don't worry, it'll come. It'll come as long as you keep pushing. Keep pushing. Push, discover, ask questions. And that's what life's all about. Push and find out. You will find out what you love to do and what you don't. So I didn't know what I wanted to do at 16. All I knew was I wanted out of school. And that's all I cared about. Because I wanted to live life. And the best education you'll ever get is on the streets of life. By meeting people, talking to people, discovering things. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with school. Bill Gates dropped out and Steve Jobs they all dropped out. They're smart like me. But anyway, the point is, education is necessary, but it's not what life's about. The real education is in the doing. It's not the theory, it's the doing. So at 16, I didn't know any better. I went fishing on the seas with my father, catching all sorts of things. It doesn't matter, all sorts of fish. And what changed my life, and it's going to be interesting for you, is when I was in this little fishing village in New Zealand. And when I was in my teenage years, I used to own 2 pairs of jeans and a couple of t-shirts, no different than now. And I just loved to live life and catch fish. So when I was 21, something very interesting happened. A Russian scientist, I don't know if I told you this, Klaus, yes? I told you? Yeah. A Russian scientist came to New Zealand. Now, I'd never been out of New Zealand. Up to this stage in my life, all I did was talk to sheep, kill deer. I used to shoot deer and pigs and catch fish. All I knew how to do was kind of kill and eat. It's just, that's how I lived. I loved it. It was a great life I had, childhood on the seas. And I had a desire to make money, because I never ate in a restaurant until I was 16. Never eat. We would grow the food, and I'm sure you can relate to it. I don't know, maybe things are more advanced here than I know. But we used to grow the vegetables. We used to shoot the animals, and I would cut them up and I would catch the fish. So that's how we lived, how I lived in New Zealand. And I watched on television life. I watched America, you know, and America's a great country, don't get me wrong, and there's great countries. Italy's a great country, I love Italy. And I love Germany, I love Austria, and I'm going to love Estonia now, I can see that. Okay, but New Zealand's the greatest little country, that's all I knew, but I'd watched television, and I realized there's a whole big world out there. And I'm just stuck on the seas catching these bloody sharks. I used to grab these bloody big things. I used to catch great whites and leopard sharks and tiger sharks, and it was great. It was a great season of life. And don't miss the seasons. You're going to have seasons. I'll get onto the health in a moment. Don't worry. Because the health is part of your lifestyle. And I'll tell you about that in a moment. I have not been sick in 15 years. I'm not immune to viruses coming. Viruses try and get me now. I go from one time zone to one. I was in California 48 hours ago. I've had about 4 hours sleep in 48 hours. I don't need it because my immune system is so strong. And even the viruses try and get me now, try and make it. I can feel them trying to get at me, but they don't get me because my immune system is so powerful. And I'll tell you why in a moment. So back to when I was 21. You've got to recognize opportunity when it comes. And sometimes it comes only once in a person's lifetime. Sometimes it might come a dozen times. But if you don't recognize it and grab it, it just passes you by. It's like everyone has ideas. But unless you act on the idea, it's useless. A vision without action is an hallucination. Most people are just dreaming away. Most people just dream at nighttime. You know, they dream it as just a fantasy. You've got to dream with your eyes wide open. You've got to dream during the day and picture how you want your life to be. It's very important to visualize what you want. Because if you don't, it won't happen. First, you've got to be before you can do, before you can have. Something I'm going to say you might not understand. You've got to own it in your head before you can have it. Finish it all in your head, then play it out, then live it out. Don't let anyone rob you of your dreams. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do it. So when I'm 21, when I was 21 a couple of years ago, there was a Russian scientist, came from St. Petersburg, Leningrad. I never met the man. Because when I was 21, I was the shark fisherman. All the people in this town would want to go fishing with me because we had action when they were with me. Anyway, I had a friend that was a scientist, and he says the next day they had this big symposium in this little town where some of the best scientists in the world and biologists came to this little town called Nelson. And there was this guy by the name of Victor Lasanov. We're like, Russian, wow. I haven't been away from, by the time I'm 21, all I've done is spoken to sheep, deer, fish, and sharks. That's all I speak. I never communicated with people. It's amazing. My life was killing animals and only to eat and to make money, not because I enjoyed it. It was just the way I was brought up. So this guy, Victor Lasanov, had been in town, and he came because he had been told that there was a very powerful anti-inflammatory. I'm going to get to it. You see, I tell you the story, how I arrived there. So here's a guy trained in Leningrad, a preeminent biologist. His specialty was anti-inflammatories, which means how to get rid of the inflammation in the body. And what he discovered, and most pharmaceutical companies do it through synthetic anti-inflammatories. The problem of synthetic anything is going to kill you or give you a whole pile of side effects. And that's what these big drug companies do. They try and get you on all these poisons. It's not the health care, it's the bloody sickness care. Get over it. The only person that's going to make you well is you. I need you to understand that. The only way you're going to get yourself where you've got power and energy and vitality is what you put in that mouth. That decides whether you're well or you're not well. What you consume. I tell you, I've spoken to millions of people around the world. I've watched fat people, sick people. I've observed and asked questions, and I know why people get sick. Okay, I'm pretty safe here. Why that's going, that's not a problem. Just, that's okay. You turn on there. Just turn it off for 1 second.